What's up, everybody? This is Colin Dijs. I'm here today with Russ McFarlane, and in this video, we'll explain to you how to optimize a CPC bidding strategy using native advertising. We'll pop over to a little screen share, which will guide you step by step. So there are 4 important metrics to consider. First of all, the bid, then the reach, then the algorithm, where I already have put down an elaborate explanation, and then the specific rules. I also have real life data here from an example campaign, from a desktop campaign, which is pulled in some data where I can show you what we actually mean when we discuss these elements. So under a cost per click bidding model, there are a lot of variations that differ from a CPM model. So using native ads, we often see the CPC model displayed on direct sources, like, for example, what we have here, MGID, but also on Taboola, Outbrain, Ref Content, where on the other side, using demand-side platforms, the DSPs, we see cost per mile CPM bidding models. So the bid, most importantly, I think, is CPC is cost per click, right? So if you don't know what that means, then I don't think this video is suitable for you because it's very advanced, but I hope that you do know what this means. So you pay basically per click. Very important though, because it differs very much. Here, you're basically saying, I want to pay X amount per click. Well, this would give us a very interesting equation, which is basically cost per click is lower than earnings per click, right, is profit. Well, it doesn't work like that though, because if it would work like that, for every click, we would get a certain amount of money. So let's say cost per click is $1. The earnings per click is, well, the earnings per click is $2, cost per click is $1. So we profit $1 per click, right? And then we would scale to infinity. But it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And the reason why is because of these 2 metrics, the reach and the algorithm. So what happens is we use something which is called RTB, which stands for real-time bidding. And then obviously we have supply. And what else do we have, Russ?
Supply and demand.
Demand. So the RTB and the supply and demand, very important metrics to understand, because basically these things would create something we call an equilibrium. Did I spell that correctly? No. Which is a term you might not understand just now, but I will show you how it works in a second. With the reach, the most important thing is, this is the specific rule, when your bid is too low, the ad exchange will not offer you impressions. The reason for this is because they need to make money, but also there are actual people bidding to win the actual clicks, which are paying more than you or willing to pay more than you. So let's say I put the CPC at 1 cent. The reach might be 0, right? The reason for this is because Ross puts his CPC at 10 cents and his reach is, let's say, 5% of total traffic. Now there's somebody else, which we call Daniel, who puts his CPC at $1 and the reach level is, let's say, 85% of total, right? So this classifies how much we are willing to buy and how much the publishers are willing to sell, which basically comes down to an equilibrium graph. And the equilibrium is an economic term of where supply and demand meets, right? Which is also a very cool movie, but we're not about the movie. It's about this specific graph. So the quantity and the price on a perfect angle is where the equilibrium point is. But obviously these axes will fluctuate. This is maybe even a better graph. This is the one I always show in my private trainings. Here's a shortage of supply and here's a surplus of supply. So demand goes down and the price drops. If you don't understand this, it's completely normal, but I think this example is understandable. Right, Ross?
Yes, we agree, yes. And Daniel, in this case, is packing and winning all the bids.
Winning all the bids, but also paying the most. So
yes,
as long as you can afford the high cost per click, you have not infinite reach, but you could buy all the volume. Now the question is, is how do we optimize this to get positive ROI, right? That's basically what we're looking for, because you need to set the CPC at a certain amount in order to yield a positive ROI. My favorite model, what we teach in general, is to start with a low bid and work your way up, right?
Find that sweet spot.
On the other hand, there was a lot of people who teach start with a high bid and drop it lower. Both options are different methods to the same goal, right? Looking for the high ROI. Just like this is our favorite method because it tends to work quite well for us. Now, this is basically how the reach works. If you offer a low cost per click where you basically know your funnel is profitable, but you don't get any reach, it's still not running. So you got to find that sweet spot where it runs. You make enough money, how much you want to make, you pay enough to get traction, but you also earn enough, right? And that's basically the struggle of a cost per click bidding model. Now, the algorithm is very important here because obviously ad suitability is very important. For example, on an exchange like MGID, ads get marked with the ad category R for like your regular overview, but there's also not suitable for work, NR17. There are different ad categories, which basically means that the publisher wants or doesn't want this specific content on their website. You can imagine that on a specific website, which is talking about eating disorders, you do not want aggressive nutra-supplements there. Why? Because that conflicts with their audience base, right? The audience base needs to be served ads for like rehab clinics, anything like that, not for lose weight extremely fast, because that might confuse their mind, right? The psychological pattern. So in that example, the algorithm has a certain set of rules, which includes compliance, right? The compliance department in general. But this is basically a good metric because we have the VCTR, right, which is basically the ICTR, impression click-through rate, which is usually leading on a CPM bidding model, right? It's your key metric, but here it is a sub-metric. And this example shows you why. Let me read it out loud for you. If one person out of 1,000 impressions click on the ad, which gets you low VCTR, right? But getting great reach, more impressions for a low CPC from the algorithm. So you put the CPC low here. If 10 people out of 1,000 impressions click on the ad, so high VCTR, but not great reach with the algorithm. And if you want the same amount of people to go to the lender, just let option 1 run to 10,000 impressions and get the same amount of clicks as option 2. The system will give you 10,000 impressions much quicker with option 1. It's favoring your teaser, giving it more reach. You're paying for the click and not for the impression, so the spend is the same. This is the most important one, what a lot of people don't understand. If you're getting more reach, more impressions, then the algorithm favors that teaser based on the algorithmic metrics that they use, right? So in this regard, when we look at this overview, it says data is insufficient because this campaign is a little bit older, but if this campaign would be live and running right now, it would indicate reach levels. For this cost per click, what kind of reach can we get, right? So then for the same cost per click with the highest reach, you will see that that will be offered the most impressions per day, because that is basically the algorithmic favorite, and that's your teaser process. So the rules in that example, to do the testing properly, keep bids on creatives the same. And these are our rules. You can apply any other rules that you deem necessary. VCTR is submetric. Okay. And this is very important, 10K impressions. That's what we use to deem a creative worthy or not. Okay, so this is basically on the testing, but this video is not about testing, it's about optimization, right? So during the optimization on the CPC model, very important, I'm leaving a space here because basically we go into the rules of testing. We have the CPA rule on widgets, right? Which is basically meaning we let it run X times payout. So if an offer has a payout of $50, and we do 1.5 times payout, so the CPA rule is 1.5. We let it run to $75 max, no conversions. We pause that placement. So far, so good?
All good.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Basically, these steps gives you a clear indication where there's little room for guessing works. Are these theories perfect? Definitely not. Are they very much amazing, better than anything else? Very much so, right? So theory is different than practice, but we want to leave the emotional part out of the media buying process. This is a data-driven approach, and media buying is all about analyzing data, make decisions based on that data. Now, if you look at these data sets, yes, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of impressions. To analyze these metrics properly at such a scale over different campaigns, including the teasers and the widgets as the two main metrics, will be, how you say it, overwhelming, right? Therefore, we set up these rules so you don't need to be overwhelmed. If this happens, then do this. 90% of the time, this will be correct. And I think for most media buyers, this would be enough, right? 90%. In the rare case, in the 10% or maybe even 5% that it's not correct, then we just take our loss on that one, because then the efficiency would be more important than the effectiveness, in my honest opinion, right? Because of course we need to keep going with everything. So the optimization then of the CPC model comes basically down to one word, one of my favorite words here, which is competition, right? See, I wrote it perfect
On the ball today.
Last time I had very much struggles writing this word. But the competition is very important. I'm going to leave it in yellow. The reason why is because on a CPM bidding strategy, you're pushing the bid floor. So what that means is there is a certain line where basically you see the win rate and how much you're winning. So if it's 100%, somebody else can definitely bid more. However, on a CPC strategy, you basically have this formula. So basically competition is, yes, algorithm. I will write that first because that's beyond your control. Competition is algorithm plus reach, maybe divided by bid. Yeah, maybe it's not like that, but this is because it looks cool. So basically, this is what the structure looks like. Now, you don't influence necessarily the algorithm, but you do, because algorithm favoritism, is that a real word? Favoritism?
Yeah.
Is that correct like this?
Don't know about the spelling, but yeah, definitely a word.
Algorithm favoritism would come to creating good creatives, right? Oh, it's not a good word. Okay, fine. Favorite moment. Let me just leave it as this. So algorithm favoritism. Favoritism.
Yeah.
Is creating good creatives, right? So that's basically on the testing part, but this is about optimization. Now you need to push reach, right? We need at some point push reach. Now I'll give you a good example here. So Ross, would you rather have 100% ROI over $100 spent, or 10% ROI, 10% ROI over $1,100 spent?
I would rather have 10% ROI over $1,100 spent.
Why?
It's more money. 10%, 1,100%. Yeah, that's right. Correct. My maths is not the best. Yeah, that's more money. Yep.
Yeah, because you net more money here. So if you have the cash flow, you would definitely pick this one.
Yep.
Right? So basically, at some point, you need to push reach. When you scale, this is one of my golden rules, right? In every product I've ever created, the golden rule of media buying is when you scale, it goes down, right? Because earnings per click stay the same, cost per click goes up, and therefore ROI goes down 99.99999% of the time. And in this scenario, you see significantly that the ROI could drop, but the net numeric value profit is still higher, so we would choose that. So if you're going to push reach, basically, there's only one option on a CPC campaign to get more reach. What would we do?
Raise the bids.
Yes, raise the bids. So this could be done in two effective ways. You can change the coefficient on the widgets, or you could increase teaser bids, right, or creative bids. But in MGID, it's called coefficient on the widgets, and teasers on the creatives. So those are two ways which can influence one another, right? You have strong power here. If you apply the CPA rule, of course, so this is where it gets confusing, right? That's why we make these videos. If you would specifically apply the CPA rule on the widgets, it accumulates spends while the creatives are being tested. Now you're changing coefficients to get more reach. You would only do this, very important, once the testing phase is completed, right? You want to test things properly. If you move into the optimization stage, start to give certain placements more reach, then the effectiveness of the CPA rule goes down because the spend is not distributed according to the natural sequence of supply and demand. You're going to manipulate certain metrics, which is fine, 100% fine. And I would definitely recommend you to do this if you know exactly what you're doing. And you would still be able to read the data properly, which will become increasingly more difficult once you keep changing more metrics, right? Which is one of my favorite things to talk about, but it's also very complicated. So let me just skip that for now. To get ahead of the competition, basically you need to find the perfect balance, again, between how much you can afford per click, right? And how much reach you can get. So the algorithm, you just need to make good creatives. We have that. Now the reach, you have to be able to increase the teaser bits if necessary, but I would say heavily dependent on the coefficient of the widget, right? In that scenario, you need a clear eye on your earnings per click, right? Your earnings per click needs to be strong, stable. The offer needs to have inventory. There shouldn't be a low cap, right? In order to basically find the reach and bid equation that will get you to where you want to be. So now you work back on the approach. So you start with profit is X, yes? So that's where you start. Now, what else do you need? You need basically conversions to make X profit. Once you have the amount of conversions, you know the CR to get X conversions, you would need X clicks. Oh. To get X clicks on the offer, we would need X visits to lender. To get X visits to lender, we would need X clicks on teaser. To get X clicks on teaser, we would need CPC is X, and then X is budget. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sweet.
Clicks to the offer, CTR rate as well. Would that be added in?
Yeah, that would be in between here.
Yeah.
So the difference between these two is the LP CTR. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
So basically, you would draw back like this. This is basically your entire optimization process, because if one metric here doesn't line up, you either need to change or improve it, right?
Yes.
And that might sound very difficult, but you have these two metrics to play with. So basically, at some point, the question is, who can optimize the CPC model the best? Who has the best creatives? But the creatives alone don't do it, right? You need to find the perfect balance between the reach and the bid, while there's consistently a mixture of metrics, which is basically other people on the supply and demand side influencing this model. So you just need to draw this equation, I wouldn't say daily, maybe once per week, to see how your ROI is being influenced by other people, by what's happening on the traffic source. If you consider that about 40 to 60% of native advertising is branding campaigns by Dell, Volkswagen, Audi, these are cars and insurance companies that just run branding campaigns. They don't run performance campaigns, right? They influence your CPC. They influence everything evolving with your campaigns. It is obviously very important that on the CPC model, you're in control of the metrics and you know exactly what to do. So if you would ask me about my opinion on what to do, it would look like these two A4 papers. Any questions, Russ? Or clear for everybody?
No, clear.
That was good, eh?
Yeah, you done well.
I thought it was pretty
Impressed.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. If you have any questions about this, because I can understand it might be quite difficult, we went through it quite fast, feel free to ask them in the comments down below. The next video on this will actually be the same video, but then on CPM, which is a lot more beginner friendly. There are a lot more terms which are easier to understand because you see them all around the world of advertising. Ross, thank you for your very thorough and strong insights today. Thank you
Great
for
to be here.
watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.